Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar, which is organized by International Coaching Federation Switzerland. We have created a whole series of events during International Coaching Week for international organizations and NGOs, but anyone else who is interested in coaching and developing themselves as an individual and also developing their organization as leaders. I'm very glad to welcome you to this session today. My name is Saba Imru Mathieu, and I've been coaching for 20 years, and now I'm contributing as a volunteer with many other volunteers in ICF Switzerland to offer you all these pro bono events. And I'd like to welcome our speaker today, Dana Walden, who is an experienced coach. She's a professor at university. She's a very, very knowledgeable person and also a great leader in the VIA character strengths environment. And so I will let her introduce herself, and then she will give her webinar, and then I will come at the end maybe to help with questions if needed and to tell you the next steps. So there you go, Dana.
Thank you so much, Saba, for that warm welcome. I'm not sure there's much else that I can say. Saba has said it all so well. I will say I'm delighted to be here with you today and to share my experience as coach and also as practitioner of the VIA character strengths. And in this session today, you'll have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about character strengths and experience a guided coaching practice. I believe they should be appearing for you now on the screen. All right. And so once again, my name is Dana, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to guide you through today's session, which is entitled Activating Your Character Strengths to Achieve Your Goal. And it's also a light introduction to a very rich topic of VIA character strengths. So before we get into our session today, just a quick reminder, what do we mean by coaching? And this is a definition provided by the International Coaching Federation, ICF, that says that coaching is a partnership. We partner with our client in a way that's thought-provoking and creative. It's a process intended to inspire the client to maximize their personal and professional potential. And so this is really my aspiration for today is during this session, there will be some moments where it may be thought-provoking or creative for you, and that you're going to take away something and experience something that allows you to continue to further develop your potential. And here's today's agenda, just a few touch points here. We're going to become familiar or more familiar for some of you with the VIA character strengths, engage in a guided coaching experience with the Aware, Explore, Apply model, and activate your character strengths so that you can achieve your goal. And maybe even for some of you, it might be a sustainable development goal, but it could be any goal that's important to you in your personal or professional life. And before we get started looking at the VIA character strengths, you might wonder, but who is VIA after all? So VIA is a nonprofit organization located in the United States, and their sole purpose is to advance the science and practice of character strengths. And to achieve this objective, they partner with coaches, consultants, psychologists, researchers, professionals all around the world. And their aim really is to raise awareness of your character strengths and to enable you to activate them, apply them. And you might have heard of VIA before. They're known for several different things, but two of the things that they're most well known for is the VIA classification, so the inventory of 24 universal character strengths that we're going to look at, as well as the free VIA survey. This free VIA survey is available in over 40 languages. It's also a scientifically validated psychometric assessment. So even though it's free, it's a very valuable tool. It's free so that as many people as possible can take advantage of the VIA survey. So that's what I wanted to do to get us started today, just a little bit of introduction for today's session. And now I'd like to move forward with a good news message. I'd like to remind everyone who's participating today that we are people of multiple strengths. Yes, that's right. We are people of multiple strengths. And we may at times not recognize that about ourselves. However, I'm going to do my best today to help you to see you are also a person of many strengths. And one way we can help ourselves to keep this present for us, top of mind, is we can prime our strengths every now and then by taking a moment to pause and to reflect. Wow, I have, yes, many kinds of strengths. I have talents, for example, things that you do naturally well. Some people are really talented at drawing. Others may be really talented at music or at writing or at public speaking or at entertaining, etc., etc. Then you have skills. You have these strengths that you have acquired over the course of time through training and practice. Those may be hard skills, technical skills. They may also be soft skills. In addition to that, you have interests. There are topics, particular topics that engage you deeply, your passions that you are willing to invest time, effort, and energy on. These are also a kind of strengths that you have. Of course, personal values, and we talk often in coaching about personal values which act as a compass, as a guide directing you in life. And then last but not least, on this short list of strengths, which I've listed here on the screen, but it's not an exhaustive list, are the VIA character strengths. Who you are at your core and how you bring who you are into your behavior. So I mentioned all of this to you to prime you to be open as we proceed in today's session that you are a person of multiple strengths. We are people of multiple strengths. And I put a little word of caution at the bottom. Beware, however, we tend to have strengths blindness, and it tends to be pervasive. But this is why it's good to join the session today. It's good to prime your strengths to reduce or eliminate that strengths blindness. Now, you might have heard friends, family, colleagues, clients, stakeholders, others speaking about you in positive, glowing terms. You might have heard them say, you are a just person, you are a determined person, you are a collaborative person, you are loving or hopeful, careful, funny. All these words you see here on the screen and more, these are reflections of our VIA character strengths. And now that I've mentioned it to you, you may start to pay more attention when people in your environment speak about who you are and how you are. And even now, there may be a few words on the screen that resonate with you particularly, where you say, I recognize that as being part of who I am when I'm at my very best in the way that I'm doing, the way that I am being. So you might just take a moment to capture a few of those words. I'll pause here for just a few seconds. Just make note, write down, or capture with your phone or a screenshot some of these words where you say, that really is reflective of who I am. And I've heard that from people before. So it turns out, as I mentioned, those words that you saw on the previous screen, those adjectives, those are reflective of some of the character strengths, the 24 VIA character strengths, which you see displayed here on the screen. I've also included a QR code at the bottom of the screen if you would like to download this classification of 24 strengths, which could be handy for you for today, but also as we go forward, as you go forward, and you might want to prime your strengths or talk about your character strengths with a coach or with other people in your life. So these 24 VIA character strengths, as defined by the VIA Institute on Character, are the core positive personality traits that reflect our personal identity, which is why hopefully some of the words from the prior screen resonated with you, were reflective of who you are and how you see yourself. And they produce positive outcomes for ourselves and for others, such as greater well-being, greater quality of relationships. They allow us to achieve more, and they allow us to contribute to the collective good. So when we are leveraging any of these 24 character strengths that you see here on the screen, we are, generally speaking, experiencing more positive outcomes, and we are contributing to goodness for ourselves and for others. And as you can see in these 24 that are here on the screen, in this classification of character strengths, they are divided into different families or groups of strength. So you have the family or virtue of wisdom. You have the virtue of courage. You have humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. And these are the broad categories, let's say the groups of character strengths. And each of the character strengths that you find under those virtues are pathways to bringing that virtue to life. And so when we want to bring more wisdom into our life, more courage, more humanity, more justice, more temperance, more transcendence, we can tap into these particular character strengths to help us to do that. And maybe just a note, these character strengths of and the virtue of wisdom are known as our cognitive strengths. They call upon our minds, our head, to in the way that we are being, in the way that we're doing. The character strengths in the virtue of courage are the more emotional strengths. You can imagine when you need to call up your bravery, how much emotion that requires. When you need to call up your honesty, when you need to exhibit zest. You have as well the virtue of humanity. And these are our character strengths, which allow us to go out and establish interpersonal relationships. So you see love, kindness, social intelligence. We have the virtue of justice, which is about civic strengths, strengths that help us to practice being a good member of our community. So you see teamwork, fairness, and leadership. We have the virtue of temperance. Now, these are very, very much needed in our day-to-day life as all of the character strengths. Those character strengths in the family of temperance allow us to moderate. So you have, for example, self-regulation, prudence, humility, and forgiveness. And then the last of the six, which is not the least of the six virtues, is this family of character strengths, the virtue of transcendence. And these strengths are about connecting to something bigger than oneself. You could also see it as character strengths that allow you to make connections with others. So here you might see spirituality, humor, hope, gratitude, appreciation of beauty, and excellence. And the great news is you have all 24 of those character strengths in you. Now, for those of you who came today with your VIA profile in hand, you've already had maybe the opportunity to do this week or previously your VIA survey, the free VIA survey. I want to give you just a few tips so that when you're looking at your results, or maybe when you're speaking about your results or you're speaking about the VIA survey results with someone else, you can go about that with confidence and ease. The recommendation that I make when you're looking at your VIA profile is to bring your attention first to the top 5 listed in your rank order of the 24 character strengths. So those top 5 signature strengths that we call them, we also sometimes refer to them as superpowers. These character strengths at the top of your profile are those that, according to your responses to the free VIA survey, are the ones that you use most easily. You use them with most frequency. They're essential to you. They show up oftentimes in your day-to-day life and interactions. And most likely you find them to be really energizing. So those top 5 strengths are the signature strengths. On average, it's your top 5. Now, some of you may have started your profile by looking at the very bottom of your VIA profile. And at the bottom, what you find are the bottom 5. And sometimes people will tell me, aren't those my weaknesses? Shouldn't I be concerned about those? Well, here's some good news is that VIA considers all 24 of the character strengths to be strengths. So these are strengths of yours as well, even the ones at the very bottom of your profile, these lesser or lower strengths. It turns out that oftentimes the ones at the bottom of the profile are ones that maybe you just simply use less often or with less fluency. Maybe they come a little bit less easily to you. Could also be that you didn't realize before that it was a strength of yours. What's important to remember is that they are not in any way weaknesses. Of course, they can be further developed, just like any other character strength in your profile. And then the middle strengths, they tend not to get a lot of our attention. We tend to look at the top, we tend to look at the bottom. Take some time as well to appreciate what is there in the middle of your character strengths report. So the ones in the middle, I like to say, are the ones that are quietly there doing their work. They are partnering up with your signature strengths. They are partnering up with your lesser strengths oftentimes to give them a little bit of a boost. And they're there behind the scenes. So it's good to take a moment to bring your attention to that middle part of your results, your report, and look to see all of those character strengths that are quietly there doing their work without maybe you recognizing it. And so what's really important is as we look at our profile, we're able to raise our awareness of our strengths. We're then able to wonder, how is it that I go about using that strength? How does that work well for me? How could I maybe use it more or less going forward? Just a little bit of advice there for reading your VIA profile. I'm going to conclude very quickly the introduction on the VIA character strengths and move us in just a moment into a practice, an opportunity for you to experience a guided coaching practice. And I would like to leave you with some short and sweet information. There's so many things that could be said about character strengths. However, if I need to leave you with something for today, I'd like to leave you with this. Our character strengths are universally valued. When the character strengths were originally researched and the classification was developed, there was a team of 50 researchers who traveled the world, speaking with people of all worldviews, nationalities, religions. And they did this because what they were looking for is what is it that makes us who we are at our best as human beings. And so the great news is over time, over the centuries, across religions and nationalities and worldviews, we as human beings value these character strengths. More good news, as I've mentioned before, we all have all 24 of these character strengths. And maybe what is even more interesting is to say that we will express them in different ways. So while character strengths unite us, they also differentiate us. So there is something unique in each of us in the way that we will express our strengths. All of our character strengths are strengths, even the ones at the bottom of the profile. I have my bottom 5 as well. They got a lot of my attention in the very beginning. Now I'm more comfortable with them, more fluent and easy. I find them easier to work with because I've spent some time investing there. You can develop each of your character strengths, as I was just saying. I took one of them from the very bottom. I said, I would like to grow this one. Character strengths work in constellations. This is also important to remember. So oftentimes your character strengths are partnering up with each other. You may be using a combination of humor with honesty and kindness when you have potentially a difficult message to deliver that's serious, yet at the same time, you want to do it with a light touch, with a gentle touch. So we're constantly packaging up different character strengths that serve the purpose in the moment. And then last but not least, the very last point here on the screen, balance is key. Just like with anything in life, pretty much not too little, not too much, which is a reminder for each of us to be aware of the way in which we use our character strengths, whether they are the top 5, the middle character strengths, or the bottom 5. How do we find that appropriate balance for the situation, for the moment? So that's what I'd like to share with you to get us started today in this first part of our session. So hopefully a lot of good news there that you can take with you. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to engage you in a brief guided coaching experience, leveraging the Aware, Explore, Apply model by Dr. Ryan Nemec, who is the Chief Science and Education Officer at the VIA Institute on Character, and who has started training with Ryan back in 2017. So very delighted to bring his model to you today, or a variation of his model to you today. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to take just a moment and to reflect on something that is important that you would like to accomplish. It can be a goal, an objective, an aspiration, a dream, something that you want to accomplish. It could even be, as I've indicated here on the screen, sustainable development goals that are important to you, or it could be any other goal in your personal or professional life. And I invite you to make note. If you have something to write with, make note by hand. If you don't, you might make a mental note. I want to, and fill in the blank. Something it is that you want to accomplish. I'll give you just a pause here and let you take the opportunity to put something down. It could be something like, I want to improve my Italian speaking skills. Or I want to learn more about sustainability. Just 2 examples I'm putting out there, which, as you can probably tell, maybe a little bit related to something I am working on in both of those cases. You capture I want to. And while you're doing that, I'm going to also invite the second question, which I already alluded to when I said something that you want to accomplish, some goal that is important for you. I'm going to invite you, as you write about I want to, what it is you want to accomplish, to also write a sentence or 2 about how this goal matters to me, how this goal is important to me. Take just a moment to respond to those 2 questions and capture something that will be useful for our next steps here in just a few moments. You see the little person here on the screen weighing, how is this goal important to me? You might find it's helpful to, on a scale of 1 to 10, to give a rating, a scaling of the level of importance to you. If I look at, I mentioned I want to improve my Italian speaking skills. What level of importance does that have for me? And for my own personal reasons, I would say personal and professional reasons, I would put it around a 9. Put it very high in importance for me. And while you're doing that, for those who may already be ready to move forward, I'm going to move forward to screen. Of course, if you need more time in the future for this practice, you certainly would have more time. Today, we have a time budget to work within. So I'm going to put the next question, third question I'd like you to reflect on and to capture something for. I'd like you to reflect on the character strength or strengths you would like to activate to support you in achieving your goal. And I've given you over here on the screen a little summary. I've highlighted the 24 character strengths for you. You may have also downloaded earlier when you had the QR code the classification. What's most important now is to go with something that speaks to you, character strength that you would like to activate, that you believe can be useful for you as you work to achieve your goal. And in my case, what's resonating with me right now, for if I stick with my goal of raising my level of spoken Italian, is social intelligence. That's the character strength that really stands out for me. Now, it turns out social intelligence is not in my top 5. It's not in my bottom 5. It's there in the middle. It's a middle strength for me. So you can feel free to choose any strength or strengths wherever they may be located in your profile, or even if you don't know your profile yet, that resonate with you. Be a moment to do that. So what I'm going to invite you to do now that you have identified a goal that you would like to achieve, now that you have taken a moment to reflect a bit on how this goal really matters to you, and now that you have selected at least one, maybe a few character strengths that you'd like to activate, I'm going to invite you to choose one character strength in particular that you would like to activate and that you can use for the next step in our guided coaching practice. You can just narrow it down to one. I know it can be a hard choice because they're all fantastic. And in reality, all of them can be helpful in achieving your goals. Maybe if you can choose just one. Once you've made note of that one character strength, what I'm going to invite you to do next is something we don't do often enough in our day-to-day life. I'm going to invite you to hit the pause button for just one moment. And so I put up this beautiful view of Lake Geneva. I wish I could take credit for this photo. It's not mine. What I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you to take a moment for you to hit the pause button. And by hitting the pause button, what I mean is I would like you to bring your attention. I would like you to bring your attention here and now in this present moment and more directly inwards. And sometimes that's helpful if we close our eyes, or sometimes we might prefer to look out the window or to place our gaze on something nearby to us in a soft way. Or you might wish to look at this lovely picture of Lake Geneva and the Jet d'eau on a beautiful sunny day. And as you're hitting the pause button, what I'm going to invite you to do is to bring forth, to bring into your awareness this one particular character strength that you believe could be particularly useful in achieving your goal. And so in my case, that would be social intelligence. What we're going to do to get started, this practice only takes a few minutes. I'm going to invite you to take a close look at that character strength that you have selected as one that could potentially help you. As you're looking closely at that character strength, what does that character strength mean to you? How does that particular character strength resonate with you? And I invite you, focusing on that character strength, using your curiosity to give you a hand, using your self-regulation to keep you focused on that particular character strength, just explore it from different angles. What is it like for me, this character strength? Maybe looking at it in a way you have never done so before. And now going a step further in your exploration. So thank you so much for engaging in that exploration of that character strength. I'd like you to take just a few moments to step back in time and have a look at how have you used that character strength over the past 24 hours, week, month, or years. How has that character strength shown up in your way of being, in your way of doing? Since we all have all 24, there is something there. How has this character strength shown up in my way of being and doing? How has it helped me to do well and be well? Just a moment to make note of that. We're doing a little bit of strength spotting in ourselves, looking at our history, looking for those resources, looking for those character strengths. How have I used them in the past? How did it serve me well? And now, what I'm going to invite you to do is to take just a moment and capture whatever has emerged for you in this moment of exploration regarding this particular character strength that you'd like to activate, what it means, how you understand the character strength, how you've used it in the past, how it's contributed to achieving or being well, doing well. And we're going to gently come back from hitting the pause button. Thank you so much for your willingness to hit the pause button and explore and be present with your character strength. And what I'm going to invite you to do now is to apply, to activate and apply that character strength. So now, with all that you have experienced, bringing that character strength more present to you, awareness, exploring that character strength, what it looks like, how you've used it before, how it's made a contribution in your life. How would you like to leverage that to use that character strength, help you to achieve your goal? And as you can see, for the next step, I have kept it pretty broad. How will I apply my strengths to achieve my goal? It could be that in that moment of hitting the pause button, there's some other strength, since you have so many of them that appeared for you. Any of the strengths that arose for you, whether it's a talent or a passion, a soft skill, a character strength, a personal value, whatever arose for you, write that down, if you will, in that sentence, how I will apply my strengths to achieve my goal. Give you just a moment to capture what is there for you. Knowing that you can always go back at any time and add to or modify anything that you've captured in today's guided practice. I thank you for your trust in allowing me to guide you through this aware, explore, apply practice. And so I'm going to share with you now only 2 more slides, and then we'll be concluding on the webinar workshop part and opening it up for any question and answer. I want to highlight for you, outline for you, if you will, the model that you've just been experiencing. This is the Aware, Explore, Apply model, at least a variation of the model created by Dr. Ryan Nemick. And the first step of this model is the awareness step. And this is probably the more challenging. As I mentioned before, strengths blindness is pervasive, and we don't oftentimes take the time, find the opportunity to hit that pause button and become aware of our strengths, or our character strengths in particular. However, when we do that, we make them more accessible. We make it easier for us to be able to use them. So that's the very first step. take the moment, hit the pause button, review your strengths, be aware that you have strengths. The second stage is then to explore them. So go deeper. You've hit that pause button. Well done. Be present to those strengths and look to see how have you used them in the past. Because connecting our strengths, one particular character strength, maybe at a time, to our past and current experiences helps us to gain further understanding into what that strength looks like for us, how we've used it, how it's been beneficial to do so. And that enhances our appreciation of our own strengths. And then the third step, which is important as well, is the apply step, where we take whatever has emerged for us from our awareness, from our exploration, and we look at a way, how can I now go about translating all of that or harnessing all of that, if you will, into an action that I can take. And so the key here in the application part is to be mindful or intentional, if you will, about how you use that awareness that arose for you, what emerged from the exploration, to applying that, making your goal become a reality, achieving your goal. That's the aware, explore, apply model by Ryan Nemick. As you just experienced it in today's session, it was really given to you as a guided practice. It can also be presented, used as a visualization or as a mindfulness practice. So there's many different variations that you can apply with this aware, explore, apply model. And my very last slide that I'm going to move to now before we go for some questions and answers, or questions and replies. Might not have all the answers, but I'm very happy to respond in the best way that I can to any questions you might have, is a friendly reminder for you to take with you. As I mentioned earlier in today's webinar workshop, we are people of multiple strengths. And remember from today's session, you've got all 24 of these beautiful VIA character strengths, these core positive personality traits within you. And I just want to leave you with that and with the question, which one or two or three are you going to activate to enable you, to support you on your path to making your goal become a reality? Right? So remember, you've got all 24 VIA character strengths. Thank you, everyone, for your practice. I'm going to conclude with the slides and come back to you on the main screen. Give me just one moment for that, and we'll be happy to open it up for any questions. Setting goals will help you to achieve your aspirations. So important to mention, absolutely. Being aware that you have your strengths is going to be really a key factor for enabling you to go about achieving your goals. And that's something we oftentimes overlook, is how powerful these character strengths are and how we can really leverage them to achieve what's important to us, meaningful to us, but also sometimes it's in the context of group work. So absolutely.
So thank you, Dana, for this amazing journey into exploring our strengths. Usually, we're experts at knowing all or what we think are our weaknesses. And Dana, you have opened an incredible door to tell us that we have strengths and that we should be aware of them. So really, I invite the floor to express themselves on what have you discovered in this conversation about strengths?
I'm going to piggyback on something you just said, Saba, and say you're absolutely right. We tend to let our negativity bias take control. And what we're working to do with our character strengths and in today's session is really to remind ourselves we have so many positive parts of who we are that we can bring our attention to. And it's going to be actually much more beneficial in helping us to achieve what's really important for us. How would you apply the character strengths in uncertain times? Thank you, Sabine, for your question. Absolutely. I think we are definitely living in some uncertain times right now. That's a really timely question. The character strengths are really something that are valuable in any time period we might be going through. There is research that has shown that they are specifically useful in terms of creating and building our resilience, our ability to bounce back It can be really bounce back or bounce forward, as some people might like to say, because once we go through uncertain times or some kind of challenge, if when we get to the other side, if we're able to look back and say, wow, I have gone through this and look at those character strengths that I was leveraging along the way. Look at those learnings I'm taking from that experience. This is a way that we can think of our character strengths as our companions in times of uncertainty. They're our companions in building our resilience, making us more resilient by helping us to see we have resources. Yes, times may be difficult. They may be uncertain. I may have a lot of doubts or stress at this point in time. And I still, nonetheless, I still have all these positive core personality traits within me that I can leverage to make the situation better than what it is. And they will support me as I go through it and become even stronger on the other side, which is why I like to say maybe bounce forward instead of bounce backward, because once we've gone through some time of stress or uncertainty or change, we come out on the other side, not exactly as we were before. We come out somehow having grown. So our character strengths allow us to respond to these uncertain times, stressful times, and grow with them and come out stronger on the other side. That would be how I would answer it. And it's going to start with being aware of those character strengths. I like to have my character strengths profile. I've got it right here next to me all the time. Of course, I work with character strengths a lot. That might seem normal, but it's also to prime myself every day. Hey, Dana, how are you bringing your hope, which is one of my signature strengths, into your interactions today? Those top 5 give you a lot of energy. So even in times of uncertainty, when you know you've got your top 5 with you, that's going to boost your energy.
I have 2 participants who have already said what they will activate. Thank you, Nakite, who is going to activate bravery, and Veronica, who's going to activate perseverance. Thank you, Sabina, for your for your comment about these resources, which are really amazing that Dana gave us. Nakite also has a comment on creativity. Yes, creativity is very useful in times of uncertainty. Indeed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you all for sharing your comments. And thank you for Saba for being here so that she can look at the chat while I just try and reflect and look at you all. But absolutely, creativity. I'll share something with you here. Creativity is my number 24 character strength, and I have had so much enjoyment as I have worked to develop that character strength over the years. And I can definitely see how it can be helpful when you need, in times of uncertainty, when you need to build your resilience, because it allows you to look for different ways. And one thing I learned with creativity was I learned to ask others, how do you do it? So if there's any of those character strengths where you feel that maybe it's the bottom of your list and you're not that comfortable with it, you don't feel like it's one of the ones that you use most easily or fluently, it's a wonderful opportunity to ask others, how do you use your creativity? And that can help you to become stronger. Yes. I mean, humor to connect. This is another one, yes, that I've worked on a bit as well. And I love to find how others use their humor. I see Saba smiling. Yes.
Dina, I have a question for you, actually, if I may.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, what tip can you give to people who are like really interested in your strengths approach, but they don't dare look at their strengths? They're still focused on their weaknesses, and they're not sure whether they can really leap into a more positive outlook on themselves. What tip can you give them?
Well, first of all, that's human. We're all human. We all, like I said, I looked and spent a lot of time looking at the bottom of my character strengths profile in the beginning, and I hear you. What I have found, which really is very helpful, and I had a wonderful example of this 2 weeks ago with one of my leadership coaching clients. He was very skeptical about his character strengths profile. He appreciated it, but he said, I'm just not so certain. And I said, well, how do you feel about asking in an anonymous format a mini 360 where you ask people to identify what they see in you as your character strengths? Give them the 24, let them choose, and ask them if they will explain in a short sentence or two how they've seen you using that character strength. And you know what? He came back a changed man, literally. He could not believe what people saw in him. And so he started to, even the character strengths where he said, I just don't really think am I really, do I really do it that well? And when he saw what others saw in him, he started to feel differently about his own character strengths. And so he started to say, well, if they see that in me, I'm curious to know more about what do they see in me, and I'm curious to do more of what they are saying that they see in me. And so he started to become more comfortable with the idea of, yes, these are actually strengths. Even the ones I don't feel as strong with, they're nonetheless strengths. So it becomes more enticing when we hear from others. And one of the best ways to do this type of mini 360, when we want to grow and we're maybe a little bit nervous about exposing ourselves, we feel vulnerable in that moment about our authenticity, ask people to participate in the 360 that you trust, people that you have a quality relationship with, who you know are going to exercise their discretion in terms of using some honesty and kindness at the same time. They're doing it to contribute to your personal and professional growth. That would be my tip, and that will make it much easier. And the more you do it, the more you want to do it, and the more you start to see, I can play with this weakness. I can do something with that. It's not actually weakness. It's a lesser strength. Maybe change that vocabulary. It's a lesser strength. That's a long-winded answer, Saba, to your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much. We still have a few minutes. So I was wondering if you could take a question from Susan. Thank you, Susan, for this very insightful question. She's wondering what experience you may have had in using the lowest strengths to start with, because they become easier to start with, and you can actually excel with them. And she finds this very useful in neurodiversity coaching, because that's what she specializes in. And she's citing, for example, strengths like self-regulation and perseverance. So have you had experience in this tackling the lower level strengths that then become something very resourceful?
So self-regulation is around the world the most common number 24 strength. So generally speaking, it's the number 24 strength on most people's profile. Might not concern those of us here today, or may not. I have already mentioned mine was creativity. So, it's not my number 24, but nonetheless, on average. So this is a common one that we human beings want to, we need at some point to work on, to further develop, to support with other character strengths. So one of the best ways, if the person really, really, really wants to start with what's at the bottom of the list, I would partner with your signature strengths, with their signature strengths. So I would say, how can we work on the very bottom of the list, the lesser strengths, using our signature strengths as a booster? Since our signature strengths are considered to be our superpowers, those are typically strengths that we feel more energy from. We use them more easily. We also tend to find them pretty essential. So I mentioned hope is in my top 5. A day without hope, that means to me that the sun doesn't come up. So I think it's just not possible. So that's one strategy you could apply. Another strategy could be to ask them which of the character strengths anywhere on their list, anywhere on their profile, above the bottom 5, is resonating for them right now. And take that one and allow the energy that's coming from that one to support working on the lesser strength. And maybe one last thought of it, self-regulation in itself. Curiosity can help quite a bit with self-regulation. So using our curiosity to help us to bring our self-regulation character strength into the moment with us, and to observe all the different ways over time, potentially, that we have engaged with self-regulation, what worked well, what could have been done a little bit differently. So there's, of course, you can start if you wish with the lesser strengths. It's maybe a little bit less traditional approach to do so, because a lot of people will call them their weaknesses. And it's harder sometimes to, for them to take a positive outlook on their weaknesses, as long as they call them weaknesses instead of lesser strengths.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Thanks for that very clear answer. Right. As the conversation continues, I'm sure you're getting lots of ideas, dear audience, on, how to apply this and does it work for me and, how should I go about it, etc. Or maybe more fundamental questions on the study of character strengths. So we have a few minutes. Pop in a few questions to start becoming a savant of character strengths with Dana's wise answers. So, any more questions here?
While they're doing that, can I share one question that came to my mind that I like to ask people that I learned in training with Ryan Nemick from the VA Institute on Character? We're not used to looking at ourselves or our day or an experience we've had and asking ourselves, what went well? WWW, what went well? And that is a short and sweet question that we can ask to start to train ourselves and our clients to look at a situation and see first what went well. Yeah, that's it, Saba. Thank you for popping that in chat. What went well? Because we are pretty good at answering about what didn't go so well. That's that famous negativity bias that we were touching on just a few minutes ago. If you ask someone, how was your day? We're kind of programmed to say, oh, well, then there was traffic and then I was almost late. And if we had asked instead, what went well today? Yeah. And then people start to recognize those small and yet important things that actually went quite well, or maybe some really big things that went well, but we kind of forgot about them because our gaze went back over to things that are working less well or the less positive aspects about ourselves.
So important to look at what went well. I know in some organizations, they call the debrief sessions after an event or something, they call it a post-mortem, which is not exactly inspiring you to look at what went well. It sort of hints that the thing was a total flop. So if that does occur in your organization, I would encourage you to really apply what Dana said as what went well. And you'll find people are surprised. They say, oh, what? Looking at strengths?
Exactly. And you can ask what went well and capture all that. That's going to give you a lot of energy. And then you can ask, and what could have been better or different? Keep it balanced. And then you benefit from having all this positive over here to support you as you look at what could have been better, what could have been different, what can we do differently next time? And then you've got the energy to actually take that and transform that into something hopeful, optimistic, positive for the future. Yeah. Great way to practice appreciation, being grateful, which is key for a
mindful approach and keeping up a positive energy level. Excellent. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what went well? What went well? And how can I leverage that? Even when I need to correct or adjust something that could have been better, could have been different. And I'll maybe keep that in mind for next time. Much nicer than talking about a postmortem. Yeah. Saba, anything you want to share? Any question that you have for me regarding these
I was engaging in a legendary moment of silence that we coaches apply to give the audience time maybe to well up, bloom another question from their heart. So I'd like to give just one more minute to anybody who would like to either ask a question or say something about this wonderful session by Dana. Please give, there is a question we do have. Can you share some insight about the golden mean? Dana, yes, to you.
Yes. Thank you, Sabine. So she's recalling that from Mindfulness-Based Strengths Practice with the VA Institute on Character. Absolutely. So the golden mean is finding that not too little, not too much, that right balance, if you will, for applying a character strength. And there's research that has shown that we find greater satisfaction and well-being when we are able to use our character strengths in a balanced way. And so this is something for us to be mindful of, because even though our signature strengths are superpowers and we enjoy using them, we find them energizing, easy to use, we have a risk at overdoing it a little bit on our signature strengths. And you can imagine the harm that can cause. So, honesty is my number one character strength. And so I've learned over life to be careful. If you go overboard with honesty, you might actually hurt someone's feelings, right? So, how do you find that balance for using that character strength, maybe in conjunction with other character strengths, to find the way to do and to be in the moment that is appropriate? So, finding that golden mean, that balanced way to apply your strength or strengths. And it's going to depend on every situation. You can also look at honesty. If you underuse honesty, um, you might not be telling the truth, and that might also have consequences that are unpleasant. So we really want to find how can we find that appropriate balance. Yes, thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well
So this,
deserved kudos.
oh, that's very kind. So finding the balance with our character strengths, and maybe one tip in doing that is obviously being mindful in the moment can be very helpful to find that right balance. I think remembering that you have other character strengths that can give you a hand can also be helpful in finding that right balance. So one of my middle strengths that I like to partner with honesty is kindness. So when you can bring kindness to honesty, then you can find a kind and honest way to express yourself. And you could also throw in some social intelligence in there, making sure you really understand well the person or the other people involved in that context. So finding balance can sometimes be a matter of bringing in other character strengths to even things out, making your own blend of character strengths for that moment. And I know it's something that I'm always working on. I think it's something that we can also help our coaching clients to work on for those who are coaches. So either as a coachee or as a coach, there's always opportunity to find greater balance in the way that we use our character strengths.
Thank you very much for this, Dana. I would like to remind you all that Dana is a specialist in character strengths, and so you can find her on LinkedIn and ask her more questions if you want. And thank you, Susan, for your appreciation. Much appreciated, actually, in return. So you see, coaches are really there to help you develop yourself, identify your strengths, like Dana showed us today, and also to help organizations, bringing humanity in organizations, especially in these difficult times. So I'm about to wrap up. Dana, you have the last word.
Okay. Thank you very much, Saba. Thank you all. I love the hearts. I love the comments. I've just enjoyed having you here with me today. Thank you so much for that. And for engaging in this aware, explore, apply practice, I'll leave you with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. Awareness is like the sun. When it shines on things, they are transformed. So I thank you for transforming with me today your character strengths even further. And I wish you all the best for the upcoming webinars for International Coaching Week and beyond. Thank you, everyone. Lots of gratitude. One of my signature strengths. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Heartfelt thank you.
Bye-bye. Hey, see you soon, everyone.